All right, I got Dr. Mario Torres Leon on the show today. He's a physician and he is the founder of Alive Partner. Dr. Mario, welcome to the show, brother.
So great to have you to be here with you, Joel, and it's such an honor as well. Big fan of the work you've been doing, and you know, at the end of the day, if we're actually viewing something and feeling something, if we're not really having our lives being upgraded because of it, we just wasted our time. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And for anybody that doesn't know, like I've gotten a chance to really get to know you off the side and have a really deep and enriching conversation. So you're just a very down to earth guy, even though you have all these titles. I mean, you went to some amazing schools and you said, Joel, like, please, when you introduced me, like, I'm just a regular guy. Like, you don't need to talk about me going to all these like Harvard and Yale, and you're a best-selling author and speaker and TV shows. You've done all these amazing things. But what I find remarkable about you is that you're like me. You've spent over 500,000 on just self-growth and wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to get better. But I know that after all of those things, they didn't really help you with your marriage. They didn't really help you with your intimacy with your wife and your two kids. Tell me about why, because I went down that road. I was looking for everything. And yeah, it upgraded my business. Yeah, it upgraded my health, but it never fixed my marriage or my kids to where I'm at now. And I know you've done the same a little bit different way. So talk about that.
That's a great question. Thank you. This would be something like you're driving down the road, you're going on one of the big California highways, and you're feeling that there's vibration in your car, right? And you say, this just doesn't feel right to me. And you say, after a while, it just bugs you so much, you said, I'm going to take this car to the mechanic. And then the mechanic looks at it, he drives it around. He really is not sure what the problem is. And he says, Joel, I think we need to change the spark plugs. Then they go ahead, they change the spark plugs, and then you're like, okay, great, I'm going back to the highway. You go back to the highway, you put in your music, you put that behind you because you're thinking to yourself, okay, the problem is fixed. And then the next day you're going down to work, you're driving down the highway again, and the sound or the vibration is still there. And that process of keep on going back to the mechanic happens and happens, and the problem is never going away. By the time you probably could have purchased 2 new cars and you still have the same problem. I really believe that in many ways, life is like that. You see, when I talk about the things that happened to me and I talk to the people in my community, a life partner, there's something really, really poignant to all of this. Very often, the kind of guys that we are, if you're a leader in your own right, you're a guy who really likes to take care of things. You're, a go-getter, you're a doer. If you're a married guy, you like to think of yourself as the guy who's providing for the family, taking care of everybody. One of the things that defines us as that kind of guy is the thought of having to look for things to fix our issues is not a very comfortable thing. And now, if you're the kind of guy on top of that, like the two of us are, that we're willing to put our money, invest in our own personal development and figure out how can I actually take this version of me and make it the best version of me every single day when I wake up, you're not going to be bothered by that. But what you're going to be bothered by is, as you're saying, going and doing a lot of things, whether it's courses, reading books, going to live in-person experience, buying, DIY, do-it-yourself experiences, and yet feeling like your cup is maybe a third up, maybe half full. I went through that for the better part of 25 years, and I have been in a relationship, like I had mentioned to you, for almost 14 years now, with a really powerful woman who actually you're acquainted with. And
yeah, if anybody knows your wife, Dr. Kim Diaramo, I mean, she is a firecracker full of energy and she's a go-getter. I mean, she has her own she has her own doctor's practice and she has built her own courses and her own community. And that takes a lot of heavy lifting. And so where there's a strong woman, there's a strong man. And I see it vice versa in the two of you. So I love that.
I appreciate that. Well, what happened was, as you were saying, you do all of these things, and I would come out of the experiences feeling unmet, feeling unrecognized, feeling unseen by the providers of the different experiences. You see, and let me just be more granular to anybody out there who's watching us right now. What exactly does he mean by that? The more you actually walk down the path of having more awareness in your life, whether it's just 1% or 99% more than you had 2 days ago, you do not live your life the same way. Things are changing because you cannot revert to the way you were doing things because it's too painful now to go in that direction once you've realized that there's a whole new perspective and whole new outcomes of how to do it. So I would go into these experiences and I would actually come out of that like, I still don't see how is this going to create the kind of progress that I want to see, the breakthroughs that I want to see. And then I would go back, to my wife and to our relationship. And you see, when you're dealing with a woman that is on an ascension path, she's been very vested in this development journey, just like many of your community members are. If they're not met by their partners in a way that they perceive that there's the same degree of investment in themselves to actually be able to meet themselves and by the same token meet them, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how much personal development work I had been doing going back 25 years. When you get into a place in your life where it's demanding from you that there is a greater degree of exponential growth and development, you cannot bring the same tools to the table. It's almost like thinking a hammer sees everything as a nail, right? But if you need a different kind of tool and you're not dealing with a nail, the hammer is not going to be necessarily what you need. And that really created this journey of starting to look into it. Why? Because what was my driver? What was my biggest fear in that process? I am in a relationship with a woman that I absolutely love, adore, I'm attracted to, love doing life with, have kids with, and she's not getting the things that she's asking for. And this is I'm going to go even deeper with this because this is a problem that I have identified. It's a big challenge for men, and there's a huge breakthrough for all of us who feel this. Very often, when that is experienced by us men, and we see that in our women, we start to go down the path of like, why isn't she happy? Well, maybe because she's a woman and all women are like that. All women are crazy. Oh, you know what? They're just being hormonal, right? They're just so emotional. These are the conversations that we men have been having for a long time. And not because we don't care about them, not because we want to be disrespectful to them. Essentially, it's because we feel completely disconnected. And there's something that is running even deeper than that disconnection, which is the things that define us and define our success as men, when they're not being met, when they're not being realized, when they're not being achieved, they trigger very dark places in the guy. Places like, man, I am not good enough to take care of my woman. I am
Mm-hmm.
not satisfying my woman sexually. For whatever reason, she's not happy. What am I doing that I'm not meeting her? You know, I am working, I'm making a great living, we live in a good house, we have the opportunity to go and travel, the children are doing well. What am I missing here?
Yeah.
What am I missing here? And perhaps some of the community members of yours may be, listening to conversations such as, man, you're not being present to yourself. You are checked out. I don't feel you. It's like, do I matter to you?
Mm.
These conversations are really real. And then they go to a whole new different level. And then they start to become something like, Joel, I think you need to start looking into maybe getting some help. Maybe you need to read this book that I came across that somebody recommended to me. Or you know what? I heard about some course that this, speaker is giving that it's about relationships. And in some cases, it may go as far as basically living every day in a state of ultimatum, right? Where she's basically
But
saying,
you know, Dr. Mario, that's what exactly happened to me. I faced that ultimatum. I had to do something drastic to get there. So you're nailing it, man.
yeah, and you get to that point, and just feel into this for a moment. Everybody listening to this, just close your eyes and feel this into a moment. What comes up for us as men when somebody tells you that you need to seek help? What comes up for men when our woman that we just, look so forward to being with, she's telling us, I'm not satisfied with you? What comes up for us men when we want to have sex and we want to have that intimate connection, really sweet, deep connection with her, only to go to bed and basically she's turning the other way and saying, I'm tired. But the I'm tired is happening every single time you try to make a move. What exactly is going on here? Why? How did we end up in this place? Did all the dreams, goals, and aspirations that bring us together to be with that woman got us to that point? And as much as I'm being emphatic in the male piece of the conversation, I want to say that in my experience in dealing with people in my community that have both men and women, interestingly enough, although with a different kind of flavor, the conversations also can happen on the side of the woman as well, which is really fascinating to me. But the point is, what do we do? when those feelings come up, that I'm not enough, that I'm not good enough, I'm falling short, maybe I'm not pleasing my woman sexually. What is it that comes up for us? And I have found, Joel, that, and I know you know this because we've had these conversations, that really is at the very center of the X or the bullseye. And we need to be willing to go there, and somebody perhaps to support us to have the awareness of what is it that has been missing, which we'll be talking about today.
Yeah. So good. I was doing the exercise that you were just doing. And the first thing that came up to me is that fear, I'm not good enough. I'm not loved. I'm not worthy. And I'm a nice guy. I'm a recovering nice guy. Like I know probably a lot of our listeners. And that is a big archetype or big paradigm that constantly comes up. And if that will just destroy your inner frame and break you. And so if you can't get through that, which is what you're talking about, it's going to be really hard to have a nice foundation and then being able to lead and enroll your life and make her come alive like what you do with your community. That's amazing. I wanted to ask you just even a little bit more granular. Did you have like you were just talking about, you went through all these courses, all these things, and wrong tool, wrong tool for the wrong job, right? Was there like this aha moment, like this realization that inspired you to create a live partner where you were like, oh my God, this is the gap that the alpha males who I work with, these go-getters, they need this, and this is what's missing in the relationship, and that is what I did to change myself. Did you have that aha moment?
No question. No, that's a fantastic question. It's really at the center of what I like to call the foundational cornerstone of our evolution to be able to have our women be so pleased that they just can't get enough of us, right? And what I found about this, yeah, and you, I know you get it,
Yeah.
is the following. And I'm going to take everybody in a little journey, in a historical journey, okay? By best of estimates, the way that we know ourselves, human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, goes back at least 300,000 years. But think about this for a second, right? If we were to turn the clock back 300,000 years, the men would be going out in the fields to do their hunting and gathering. The women will stay in the village, taking care of one another, supporting each other through going through their periods, perhaps somebody dying, taking care of the kids, the birth, cooking for everybody, having their circles to be able to communicate in a very close way. You and I, Joel, we would be out there hunting and gathering, chasing the animals, and trying to kill whatever we could to actually bring it back to our families and feed them. You see, the most emotional moments that you or I could have possibly had, if we imagined this, would be you basically hunt a huge game, and we're just proverbially high-fiving out there because you know what? You made it happen. You're going to bring this big animal to the family, and
Yeah.
we're gonna make it happen one more day. We're not going to die here. The second thing that might have happened, we're hunting, and then suddenly a big animal is behind my back. I didn't see it. You saw it. You killed the damn thing, and I did not become somebody else's lunch that day, and I get to live another day to enjoy ourselves and enjoy our family. That perhaps would have been the extent of how much emotional connection probably would have had. Very primitive.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the women's were behind and they were developing a very different kind of social interaction, which you and I did not have the privilege of actually developing just by social convention.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fast forward 300,000 years, and now we are in the 21st century. Well, guess what? You and I are not proverbially hunting and gathering the way that we used to, okay? And we are living with the same woman under the same roof, and there's not other people here. So we're basically interacting every day. But they still remain in that kind of circle. Women, for the most part, are much better than we are at continuing to communicate and have that kind of connection. The bottom line is that point in the center is we as men did not have the opportunity to develop an emotional and a feelings language. This is crucial to understand because it's truly an evolution for us now in the 21st century as men and women as we relate to one another that we have to cater to. What does that mean? Well, when that woman is in that ascension path, she's expanding, she's growing, she's seeking, she's looking for more. It gets to a point that if she feels or her experience of her man, her mate is one of being unmet in the emotional and that feelings realm, she's not going to feel fulfilled and satisfied no matter how much you give her. And when I say give her, in every single regard that you can think of.
Yep.
And what happens is you may be that guy that we're going out there and we're killing it and we're doing great in every single area of our lives. We're absolutely true leaders. People look at us and we're gods out there. But then we
Yep.
come to our home just like dogs who've been, reprimanded, and then the tail comes between our legs. We think we're kind of like that guy, but guess what? We're not getting it. We're not feeling cherished. We're not feeling appreciated. We're not feeling loved. We're feeling rejected when we try to be intimate and we're not really getting that. And then what starts to happen because of that lack of feelings and emotional connection and that language that has been lacking to be able to create a deeper degree of connection and strengthen and grow from it exponentially, we start to pretty much live separate lives. And we start to be the protagonist of divergent paths inside of the household. Now, if the woman truly appreciates you and she has the inklings that, in fact, there's a bigger and a deeper man inside of you, like it happened to you, like it definitely happened to me, what's going to happen? Then it's going to start to become a really contentious relationship. And she's going to become this nagging human being with whom you're doing life. And it's going to annoy the crap out of us to the point that many men that I deal with, they get to a point and say, you know what? I got to tell you, I just woke up this morning and I couldn't tell you who was the woman that I woke up next to. I am sleeping and sharing my bed with a stranger. And to me, that is something that, after looking at my 20 something years of being in medicine, seeing people dying, people being born, and really looking at the whole journey, I said, there's something here. And I'll tell you this little story. When I was at Harvard and I was at Mass General Hospital for multiple years doing training, there is a building up there that has up to 22 floors. It's called the Phillips House. And the Phillips House, it has a 21st and a 22nd floor. And all sorts of royalty and celebrities, politicians, people that are real, what we consider VIP people, go there to the point that sometimes they actually change their name so that nobody knows, to create anonymity so that nobody knows that they're being treated for very delicate things.
Mm-hmm.
I would go and do my rounds after operating on some of these patients. And I was able to intimate with some of them over the course of the years. Every single person, Joel, at the end of the day, when I would go to visit them, they would really go into the depths of what was happening in their dying situation. They would say, Doctor, I need you to help me with something. And I would say, what is that? And they would say, can you help me buy time?
Mm.
And I would say, why do you want to buy time if we can even do that? And they would answer across the board. It didn't matter what the nationality was, color, creed, it didn't matter. The bottom line was they wanted more time to be able to express their love to those that they loved deeply in their lives and to be able to rekindle with those that they had lost the connection. And they felt this burden that the need to reconnect again was so deep. That happened, 20 years ago. And I think about this conversation you are having. When we are going through these difficulties with our women or people we love in our lives, life is giving us a huge gift and opportunity, particularly if we're not terminally ill, to be able to look into these things and say, what am I missing? And that questioning through multiple episodes in my life that led to what is it that is missing for me, because clearly I was behaving the same way over and over again, and I found myself pushing my woman away. And I'm like, why is it? I mean, I think I'm a good communicator. I thought of myself as such, like I can open my mouth and speak in different languages and hopefully get a point across, but I was failing miserably. What was missing? And the crux of that was Mario did not have a language to be able to convey feelings and emotions. When I started to deepen into this and I started to really look outside of, the scope of me and started to have conversation with men as I was wanting to really prove to myself, is this something that is just me? Is this something universal? Then I started to find over and over and over again that the level at which we men communicate when it comes to these things, it falls short not because of our lack of interest in our women, not because of our lack of capacity to deepen, to go there, to go to the dark places. It's just not having the language to be able to get that golden key, put it inside the lock, and then open that door. In the beginning, with a lot of fear. And then as you get more and more comfortable with that, there comes a point that you're seeking, particularly in your relationship with your woman, to deepen into that. You want to be seen. You want to experience your power as a vulnerable man. And this is really counterintuitive, Joel, and you know this from your own experience. We tend to think, because it's been passed down to us culturally, that this word vulnerability is almost like saying going into a battlefield where everybody's armored and you're basically naked. So, okay, who's going to be the first chicken to be, whose head is going to be cut off? Yours and mine, right?
Well, and not only that, Mario, we're at a time too where women, there's this whole Me Too movement, and there are women or there's a side, a demographic that is saying, oh, this is very toxic masculinity, which I think is really dangerous, because we're now in this stage where men, like you just beautifully demonstrated, we don't have the ability to feel, connect, and express ourselves powerfully. We're already in a crisis right now. I got guys reaching out to me every day in my Instagram saying, I'm getting divorced, help me, I'm getting separated. And it starts with what you're talking about, this communication. So we've got a lack of skill, and now you've got a group of people saying what you're trying to do is toxic masculinity. You can't do that. And now we're being told to be vulnerable, but I don't think men know how to even do that correctly. And I'm sure you're going to say the same thing.
You're 100% spot on. And that's why I was so excited and honored when you invited me to come and have this conversation with you, because I really believe, and I have plenty of evidence just like you, that there is a major shift happening because of this degree of disconnection between men and women, particularly the heterosexual couples that truly want to make it work. And to make things, to compound things in the negative direction, the fact that the man doesn't know how to access his power, his emotional power, to be able to connect with that woman in a way that power creates protection and shelters her so that she can actually fully blossom in her feminine essence, is really damaging the capability for people to be together. And there's something that worries me even more, and I have seen it, and is that the man that lives in that state of inability to feel gotten, to feel understood, to get what he's actually needing, if we're just talking about the very basic needs of human beings, like the Maslow hierarchy of needs pyramid does, that creates in the men a very distinct set of traits. There's going to be tremendous degree of anger. There's going to be tremendous degree of frustration. And there's going to be a desire to basically escape his reality, which is basically to say he checks out. Mm-hmm. What does that look like, right? Like in examples. Well, that may look like the guy who just came back from work today, and the first thing that he did after arriving at the house is just picking up the remote control and turning on the latest football game or a baseball or basketball game, and just basically couch surfing until it's pretty much time to eat supper, and then let's go to bed. Like, there's nothing there. And it's not because the man doesn't want to. It's like in the mind of the guy, and we're pretty simple beings. I really believe that, right? Yeah. We're really simple. You know what? I just want to come home, have a good relationship with you. Let's have some fun. Yeah, we'll have a good meal. Let's have some great sex tonight. Are the kids doing well if you have them? Or are you doing it? Did you have a good day? Okay, great. Let's go to bed and let's make it happen all over again. On the other hand, her needs are different. She wants to not only be able to have you experience her and what's happening for her, especially that kind of woman that we've been talking about, but there's a unstated need, which becomes a demand in the way that she behaves around us, which is, you know what, Joel, I need to know and feel, how are you doing? I want to experience what the hell is happening inside of you. And you or I are thinking, to ourselves like, man, I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. Everything is good out here.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we also have very deep experiences that run through us. So the second element to not only the aspect of expressing feelings and emotions is starting to bring awareness to ourselves, to start to wake up the curiosity within the man of what else is being felt here. Recently, I had one of my mentees from my life partner mentorship, and he gives me a call. And he said, hey, Dr. Mario, I just want to share something with you. We had only one coaching session. And this guy is the CEO of a company in the eastern part of the United States. very successful guy. He says to me, I just had to call you because yesterday I had a very important meeting. My company is undergoing a pretty significant legal battle with another company. We're being sued, this and that. And we've been at it for a while. And it's been a really costly affair so far. And I already know the lawyers on the other side, obviously my lawyers. So we had this meeting yesterday to figure out how we're going to sort this out. And I did two things that you've been teaching me through the program. One was to slow myself down by learning how to breathe. And I'll get into this in a second. And the second piece that I did was I became very aware through breathing. What was I feeling? Because I was feeling anxious. I was, in his own words, I was pissed. I've had it with this whole thing of the lawsuit. I just want to be done with this stuff.
Yeah.
But I recognized in that moment, as I was feeling all of those things, that if I enter the room like the proverbial bull in a china shop, it was going to be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So he implemented some of these tools that we work on, goes into the meeting, comes out of the meeting, calls me up and said, by the way, after pretty much employing those tools that I've learned through the mentorship, you just saved my company yesterday approximately $250,000 in legal fees because of the win-win situation that got created in the room. I am sharing this not from a place of like, wow, how great I am as a coach at all. It's an incredible lesson for me as a man myself who is actually witnessing the greatness of a different man completely blossom and create tremendous breakthroughs for his own life, not because of me. Right? You can actually, as a coach, you may try to actually have somebody do X or Y things, but at the end of the day, if that person that is being coached does not lift a finger to put into action those things that he or she is learning, it's completely worthless, right? But it really showcases the power of this essential piece that we have been missing for hundreds of thousands of years to be integrated, to be employed, and starts to spill over not only in the relationship that you're in with a woman, but in every single domain of your life. This guy is a divorced guy, just like some of these guys that you were talking about from Instagram, and had a disastrous separation and divorce, starts to date a new woman, that failed, and dated another one, and he went like 3 different women and the same thing over and over. Then he starts to date this particular woman, and the woman says to him at one point, you know what? I really like you, but you're so insecure. That was the moment that the atomic bomb went off for that guy, because he's like, me, insecure? Come on, I'm a leader. I'm a CEO of a company. Like I'm a multimillionaire. I'm a guy who's actually incredibly successful. What are you talking about? I got the bull completely by the horns.
Yep.
But it bothered him, right? Because he already was having a collection of experiences and outcomes that were not in tune with the so-called success that he was experiencing elsewhere. And just like you see in your community and you see people out there, that was a spark that said, you know what, just like it happened in your life, it happened in my life, it gets to such a degree of heat and high temperature. They say, if I keep on going this direction, I am going to burn out. I'm burning already.
Yeah.
Right? And that's typically what happens with these situations. It's really, really powerful. And it's so ominous, and endemic at this point. It's not a pandemia. This is an endemia. It's everywhere. And what I have come across too, and you might have actually found this out as well, is that the more men we engage each other, one another, with this kind of conversation, we start to realize that this is brewing inside of us under the surface of the quote unquote good marriage. So the more that I have had that awareness, I said to myself, okay, I cannot continue to pretend that everything is peaches and cream, because it's not. And I'll say it exactly how it is. I've never had a good time with acknowledging when I've done something that is less than right, less than perfect. It's definitely, the vein of my existence, right? And I said to myself, my biggest breakthrough is going to be in being able to see myself, love and accept what's in there, number one. And number two, talk about it, open up about it. And then number three, come up with a plan to be able to address this. And if I can't do it on my own, then I'm going to get support for it. And one of the people that I will enroll, whether it's a coach or multiple coaches, is going to be my partner. Why? Because in this kind of relationship situations, the other, in this case the partner, becomes a mirror to you that allows you to create a degree of self-reflection that is completely unachievable on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say more. Even if you have a coach, the coach may see certain things, but the degree of intimacy that you're experiencing with your partner is not something that you can experience with your coach, unless that's a very special coach. Maybe your wife is your coach at that point, you know. But
Well, you and I both share our greatest life coaches are our wives. And my wife used to joke, she's still not anymore, but she used to joke with me, Joel, I don't know why you paid that coach $5,000. I told you to do that 2 years ago. You just now are listening. So it's pretty funny. I can laugh. We both laugh about it now. And I really do lean into her feedback now more than ever, because guess what? She's typically right.
they are, and you know, I'll tell you what this has become, and is what I share with my community and the people that work with me. Um, if I were to sum all of this up as to what is the ultimate goal, right? Because granted, you know, we want to have better sex or amazing sex. We want to be able to look at that woman and feel that electrical current inside of us, like, you know, she's awesome. I love the fact that she's mine, you
Yeah.
know, and then all of the things that we're feeling, we want them to feel them at the same level or even higher, so that we feel fulfillment and accomplishment, that I am the guy, I am the man, and I'm doing these things. But once you start to achieve those things and experience them on a moment to moment basis, I've got this, I've got that, I've got that. There's still something as part of that internal evolution for us that I think is, for me at least, is the ultimate goal, and it is to become untriggerable. This is really, really important. Untriggerable. And I will share with the audience, you know, what I mean by that. Untriggerable doesn't mean I don't care. Untriggerable doesn't mean I'm not affected by the situation. Untriggerable doesn't mean that I'm detached. So I'm some sort of ghost that is just flying over the situations and nothing over here. No. Untriggerable means that I am completely present to what's going on here. All my senses are fully engaged with the moment. I am feeling everything that is here for me. And I am in a complete state of masterful allowance of letting my body experience whatever is there. This may sound esoteric, and I'll give some examples to showcase why it isn't. Imagine that it is 2 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly the fire alarm, and you know a lot about fires and fire alarms, the fire alarm goes off. What do most people do? Okay, this is really annoying and it's interrupting my sleep. So what am I going to do? I mean, I know you know this. So you wake up in the middle of the night, you get a chair or whatever, you grab the sensor, you plug it from the ceiling, you take the 9-volt battery out, right? And then what do?
Go back to
Go
sleep.
back to sleep,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy, right? That's exactly what we do. But what happens is, it's an incredible metaphor. Why? Because your body is the most sensitive, I call it the most sensitive radar known in the universe, until we know other cultures, perhaps from other planets, if we get to meet them and see what they have. Until then, the amount of receptors and capacity to sense that is in our bodies is unlike anything that man has been able to create. Meanwhile, when situations happen for us, especially for men, we are taking the sensors out of off the ceiling and taking the batteries off and neglecting what is it that is being felt. And to a
Mm.
large degree, not being taught about it. Number two, because it's uncomfortable. To be able to become untriggerable, I want even more sensors turned on. I want every little molecule of my body that feels to give me that information. You see, I talk a lot and I practice this with my programs about the heart set, which is something that people don't talk about. We talk about the mindset. We're still living in the 19th century, in the age of the Enlightenment where the brain is revered as the biggest thing in the universe.
Yeah.
But the language of the heart is a language of feelings and emotions. So all of this stuff is completely informing us. And there's a communication path that is happening between the heart and the brain all the time. The heart goes by the intuition, and intuition is served by what is it that we feel. For us men, we have completely been living in a state of being dampened, suppressed when it comes to what this feeling organism, this feeling instrument can actually detect to serve us. To the point that I say that the most sentient person in any given situation, whether it's arguing with a woman, whether it's in the boardroom if you're, leading a group or being the president of a company, whatever the case may be, that individual is the most powerful. Why is that? Because you've completely opened up all the different channels of what's possible for you to receive the information, to be informed. And then all of that sensations, all of those sensations are communicated with the brain so you can actually arrive at very different conclusions that are far more powerful and of far greater impact. But in being able to block unconsciously or consciously what is it that we're feeling, we're missing out a huge chunk that has incredible value to us as human beings, and certainly to us as men as we relate to our women. So, to be able to become untriggerable, we have to learn to be able to feel. There's no person that can just be like completely not miffed by something unless they're really tuning in, or if the degree of being checked out is so great that it's palpable as well that they just can't feel it. But when it comes to our relationships, the closest, the most intimate, the ones that are really demanding that we show up fully, what that woman is actually asking for is two things. Whether she knows it or not, her experience of you is requesting those two things. One is, Joel, I need you to be present. To be present means I need you to be here and feel everything that is here. She won't be able necessarily to say it like that if she doesn't have that language. You do. And the second thing is, I want to be able to experience you fully expressed. In other words, whatever is coming up for you, I want to be able to see it. I want you to be able to share that. I want you to gift me your capability to emote. And now suddenly, when the man embodies that and starts to do that, that woman or anybody that you deal with, they say, that guy Joel, holy cow, he's a powerhouse. Or they'll say something like, I can't believe how this guy is so capable to talk about all these problems that he went through. And then to be so vulnerable. It's like, how did he do that? Right? Because you've come to a point of understanding, not from here, from your whole essence, your whole nature as a man, as a human being, that all of those things that are being experienced are essential to be able to manifest your full essence as a guy, as a person. And that is not only palpable by everybody around us, but is incredibly powerful, just like a big wall coming in your direction. Is that making sense?
Yeah, man. I think you're nailing it. And I would even just say for anyone who's listening that's saying, man, I don't know about this Dr. Mario. I mean, I think he's making me sound like I need to be emotional and I need to be vulnerable. That's not what he's saying. And I know you very well. And I just want people, there's a shift, there's a little nuance because you and me are both alpha for a better term, alpha males. We're go-getters. We're motivated. We create, we build businesses. We go on TV shows. Like, people looking at it. And so when we communicate and emote, as you said, we're still doing it from a place of power. I can be vulnerable and still come off very powerful. Like you said, in a conversation, someone could see me and be like, man, he's so connected. He's so dialed in. I don't lose any power when you understand how to emote in the specific way you're talking about. So I just want to kind of give a little nuance in case anybody's thinking like, oh, that means I need to be weak and vulnerable. That's not what you're saying at all.
Your point is so great. Thank you for saying that because, one of the things that I talk about in one of the modules in my course, I say to the viewer, we're not here to make you a softie. We're not here to make you a sissy. We're not here to, have you at the end of the course be wearing heels and skirts. This guy that we're talking about, I will never be that guy. And those who want to do all of that, I respect completely the autonomy of human beings. You pick, I like to say in my household, there's as many ways to do life as the number of people on the planet. That gives you at least 8 billion different variations of any given thing you want to do, right? So there's plenty of rain here to do whatever you want to do. But to your point, which is spot on, there's nothing more powerful than to see and experience and witness another human being open up in their own lives just because you taking a stance in your own life for being authentic, being the author of your life moment to moment, being able to share fully what is it they're experiencing. I'm getting goosebumps as I say this. It is a transformative moment. And when human beings are in the presence of anybody who's living from that place, whether it's a woman or an alpha guy like we are, guess what? It is something palpable and is super powerful. I'll give you a really concrete example about this. When I started to really understand that, and I'll go further than this. I would do these exercises with my woman, and we call it the I see, I feel exercise, right? And important because it started to years ago give me the opportunity to express what I was feeling, which I was completely handicapped in being able to show. Right, like everything is good over here. It's like, oh, I feel grounded. I feel good. I feel excited to be doing this with you. I was giving her nothing. I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would get to a point where I started to feel emotions brewing up in my eyes. In order to highlight to her that I was feeling something, I would be like, I feel like I'm about to cry, So almost like I'm announcing, hey, this guy is completely, I'm nailing it. I'm being Mr. Emotional here.
Yeah.
Give me some brownie points, sweetheart. Hey,
Yeah.
don't forget about them when we go to bed tonight and you say, I want to get a little intimate with you. Remember the points. So I would be kind of like announcing, oh, I'm feeling this and feeling that.
Yeah.
And she would get so upset with me. She would be totally pissed. And I started to understand, like, okay, well, at least it's giving me a little insight into what this is all about. But as I became more and more comfortable with what I was feeling, I started to then want even more to feel that. And as that went on in those exercises, I would feel essentially in the beginning, like I would feel more like in my head when I was trying to feel into my body. And as it went on, it was like kind of like going down to my neck, down to my, over the course of months, chest and this and that, to the point of feeling my entire body. And then it got to a point that I would be expressing something and I would say whatever she saw in me. And then I would be like, I feel so overwhelmed. And then tears would be streaming down and suddenly I'd be crying without being able to stop it. But then I wouldn't find myself saying, I feel like I'm about to cry or I want to cry. No, now it was a whole different level of this is not for her. This is not for me. And you see in the evolution of this growth, just like developing muscles, when going to the gym, it's no different.
Yeah.
And I want all the men out there to really feel that this is not complicated. It's just that it's new to us, but we are very capable because all these emotions, they live inside of us. The more that you start to feel that, the more you seek it. And then ultimately, for anybody thinking out there, well, I do all of that stuff for what? Just to like show that I'm crying? No, there's nothing more incredible when you actually show all of that. It's genuine, it's authentic, it's honest, it's transparent. And then I would find my wife just, upon finishing our exercises, just jumping on top of me and getting undressed. And and I share this, it sounds kind of funny, but it's really powerful because in the beginning I was very confused. I couldn't understand, I had this struggle inside of me thinking, well, I'm showing all this stuff that culture and men have taught me that it's a weakness to show all this stuff. Meanwhile, this woman that I have tried with all of the stuff that I have up here to try to get her to do what I want, and I have failed miserably time in and time out. And now I shedded tears. I said about how, lonely I feel, or I felt like a loser because this business deal didn't go through the way it should have gone. And now suddenly she's jumping on top of me. What is going on here? That the first time that happened, I was in disbelief. The second time that it happened, I said, okay, I'm onto something here. This is really powerful. And then that mirror, seeing that woman basically give that back to me connecting with what I was feeling in those moments, I started to realize the true essence of my power as a man, as a leader, as an alpha guy, lied in discovering and opening up the gates to feeling.
Yeah. Wow.
And living from that place changes everything. So that, in combination with feeling everything and becoming untriggerable, has it completely flipped our marriage like an omelet. I mean, I cannot say enough about what has happened since that started to happen. Because this woman, for a long time, she even felt that she was not safe.
Hmm.
If I am with a person that I am showcasing all of my full spectrum of colors of what's coming up for me, but I'm with a guy who everything is good over there, and I know because the woman has that intuition that it's not, then what does that do to her? I'm going to have to protect myself because I am not in an honest situation here. And many of these women who are dealing with men like us who have gone through that journey of discovering that and before that, I guarantee you, many of them, they feel that way. How do I know that? I've actually coached couples, and they do their intake questionnaire separately. The man portrays a picture that everything is just vanilla sky. Everything is fantastic. The woman, on the other hand, she's like, I feel so trapped. I feel so vulnerable. I feel so, in danger, like something could happen to me in dealing with this guy.
Hmm.
So these things are 100% real. But the good news is that we can deal with them. And like you have discovered in your own journey too, Joel, the path that we're in, the stage in history that we're in as men, as we relate to women, I think couldn't be more fascinating and more challenging and more important to really create tremendous legacy for our children and for generations coming behind us because we've had this degree of awareness that we have been lagging in this. I was having a conversation with somebody recently who studies men and women from a psychological standpoint. And he was saying, we've had the feminist revolution, but we haven't had the masculine revolution.
It's coming.
And it's coming. And I don't mean it in a sense of fighting, in a sense of creating chaos, but I mean it from the place of masculine evolution
Yeah.
or the evolution of males, right? Where we're going to be learning more and more as time goes on to tap into these superpowers that are innate to us that women have been already leveraging, but we have not. And it's changing the game, and it will forever change the game.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And by masculine, it doesn't mean anything. It has nothing to do with control and dominance. It's how we're showing up. And if anybody's done the study of like masculine, feminine polarities, you know exactly what Dr. Mariano and I are talking about. I know we're gonna have to wrap things up, but I do have a question for you. And I know you understand your course and what you teach is a lot of it's based on neuroscience and brain science. And I had a mentor say to me, Joel, language is gasoline for the brain. And you're talking about, and I know this from doing some of your work with you one on one, is that the language we speak, it's so nuanced and subtle. And it's a 2 millimeter shift that people don't even realize that they're making a mistake. And you actually talk about the neuroscience, and there's part of the brain called I think it's the homunculus of the brain.
Uh-huh.
Could you just speak briefly about that and why it's so important and how you found this connection of language, that piece of the brain, and how we can start to repattern, how we can start to rewire? And I think that's what you've discovered.
That's a great question. Thank you. Um, in neuroscience, there is a depiction, a picture that gets created, that gets superimposed like a cartoon on the surface of the brain, and that is called the homunculus. Homunculus, homunculus. The homunculus is like a cartoon, and it's a very weird looking cartoon because some parts of the body are very large, like the hands, for example, the lips, the nose, the feet, And that's superimposed on the surface of the brain. What that means is that there are different areas of the cortex of the brain that deal with those anatomical parts, that those body parts, and that's where that association is. Now, my big discovery, and I have not heard or read anybody talk and describe this, is the following. I have discovered that there is, just like there is a homunculus for the brain, there is a physical, pictorial, like a drawing representation of feelings and emotions that are unique to you and every single human being when it comes to where those emotions get expressed or felt. Let me say it in a different way. For example, when I am feeling anger, and it's a really strong anger, my representation of anger in my body always starts in my chest. And I feel as though somebody's just grabbing their hands and squeezing where the heart is. It's really, really, really intense for me. When I am in a situation where I don't feel listened to, understood, the physical body part of that map for me, for Mario, is somebody putting a hand in almost like strangling me. If you squeeze your neck really tightly, everybody has felt that sensation. It's very strong. That I know for me, that is that sensation of like almost like being neglected. I'm not important in this moment, and so on. So one of the things that I teach in my body of work is it is essential, especially for the non-feeling person or the person that feels doesn't feel that much, essential to start body mapping the feelings and the emotions. Why is that important? Because these patterns are repetitive and reproducible for you and your feelings and emotions, for me and mine, and for everybody else's. What does that do? Why is that important? Now, for you to become a neuroscientist, it's important for you to create awareness, right? Because as I aspire to become untriggerable so that I can really be fully open, fully expressed with my heart wide open in a moment to moment situation, I want to use everything that I can to identify what is it that I'm feeling. If I am dealing with my wife and I start to feel chest discomfort in the same place, I know that whatever this conversation is about, something is being ignited inside of me that is sparking anger. This has nothing to do with her. This is my body. This is my experience. It's my own responsibility to acknowledge that and be in ownership of it so that I can actually be in a state of empowerment. But if I don't have anything available to me to be able to start even identifying the slightest sensation that this incredible sensor is gifting me with, I am going to be lost and I'm not going to offer much to her. I'm going to end up being upset, angry. And that physical sensation, which hasn't been verbalized yet, will come to a point because of being unrecognized that it will be vented out somehow. The vented out could be physical. It could be me throwing a fist on a table. It could be me being abusive with my language. These things happen all the time. They go unrecognized and they create a tremendous degree of disharmony in relationships. And not only that, Joel, at the end of the day, I'm still a physician. And I have seen how all of these emotions, and you know this, they get lodged somewhere in the body. Emotions are meant to be in motion. And for us men, when they're not, there's either going to be vices, there's going to be prostate cancer, there's going to be pulmonary issues, there's going to be heart disease, eventually there's going to be dementia, autoimmune illnesses. Very important. If those things get stored somewhere and there's no flow, it will definitely burst someplace else. And I have seen it over and over again. So, I mean, that's a whole topic in itself that I could talk for hours on because I've seen it. But it's important to plant the seed for the audience to know that if these things go unrecognized, something else may blow up, and it may be my blood pressure. It may be becoming a diabetic and having nobody in the family who's a diabetic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so good. I love that you talked about that. Thank you, man. An hour just flew by with you. I will definitely bring you back on because I felt like we didn't even get to like there's like a whole 80% I could have talked to you more about, which is great. That means there's more to share and more to learn. for people that want to just learn more about what you're doing over at a live partner and just where they can connect with you, find more about you, learn from you, and take the course and be coached by you, like where can they go and follow you and see everything that you're doing?
Thank you. So the name of the website is alivepartner.com, alivepartner.com. And I figured, for your community who is interested in this kind of topics and they want to start creating changes immediately, I've created a really short video, super powerful, that basically talks about the 3 ways to get to please your woman and have her wanting for more. So when you go to alivepartner.com, you're going to see that. You put your name and your email, and you're going to get that immediately because, once again, this is something that we're all seeking as men. And the feedback that we have received has been so powerful. The testimonials, people's marriages, relationships, and self relationships changing in a matter of just watching the video for a couple of minutes. And I'm not just saying, if somebody doesn't believe it, just go to the page and see the testimonials. It's been so humbling and such an honor to see people's lives change dramatically because of the things that you and I have done throughout so many years, and willing to be able to put our heads on the chopper, on the chopping board. And it's like, I can't do it this way. I'm willing to put myself as a guinea pig. Something has to change.
It's so good. I love that. I love you and the work that you're doing, man, because you said it best earlier. You helped this one CEO make a huge shift in his finances for his company, but it's beyond that. He made a shift in how he was showing up and being. Now that man, it goes back to his house. He's a better leader. He's better for his kids. He's leading now. You think he's going to get divorced again? Absolutely not. And so he will now change a dynasty, a legacy of other kids and his future generations to come. And that man goes back in his community with his neighbors and he does the same. And so it's really, really powerful work that what you're doing. I couldn't appreciate you any. I really do sincerely appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you.
That guy, just before we leave, that guy was estranged from his son for 3 years. That guy was not talking terms with both of his parents who are in their late 70s. That guy was estranged as well from his brother. Clearly, there were a lot of things that were not working. And I am so amazed and so humbled and privileged, to get to see this just like you get to see with your community members when they're changing and things are happening from them, breakthroughs are being had. Because we know that the world is being made a better place just because of these discoveries. They may seem trivial, but they're not. These are really game-changing moments. And when we have conversations like this, I really believe we're shifting the scales in the planet, because it just takes a seed to let it grow until a tree is actually seen by many and the shade is enjoyed by most.
Yeah. Dr. Mario Torres Leon, thank you so much for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you.